Hello everybody and welcome to episode 32 of my Guild Wars 2 series. Today is a very exciting day because so far in this series we have played on 4 different characters. Our Human Guardian, our Char Thief, our Norn Ranger, and our Assuran Engineer, and today we're going to start taking a look at the 5th and final race available in the game. And this race is actually my single most favorite race out of all 5 of the races to play as, and I'm very excited for this episode. So let's go ahead and do some quick character creation and get started. So our final race that we are looking at is the Sylvari, and Sylvari are not born. They awaken beneath the pale tree with knowledge gleaned in their pre-life dream. These noble beings travel seeking adventure and pursuing quests. They struggle to balance curiosity with duty, eagerness with chivalry, and warfare with honor. Magic and mystery entwined to shape the future of this race that has so recently appeared. So the Sylvari are basically like a plant-like race, and they are super cool. I love plant-based races and different video games. And the Sylvari are actually the newest race out of the 5 to appear in Terria, where we saw all of these 4 races in Guild Wars 1, especially at the end of Guild Wars 1, and then the Sylvari appeared in between the first game and the second game. Just to put this into context for all of you, the Sylvari appeared in Arbor Bay in the year 1302 after Exodus, and the events of Guild Wars 2, the start of the personal story, begins in the year 1325 after Exodus. So at the very start of the game, the Sylvari race as a whole is 23 years old, so very, very new. So let's go ahead and pick a gender, and I'm actually going to pick female even though I don't identify as it. Jennifer Hale is my single most favorite voice actress out of like every game, and especially Guild Wars 2, and I just absolutely love her work, and I don't think I would appreciate us playing through a Sylvari if we were to focus a lot on like the male voice actor, who's still great, but Jennifer Hale for me is just a personal favorite. And now we can select our profession, and my main character in Guild Wars 2 is a Sylvari Guardian, but we've already played through a Guardian, and I am wanting to look at a profession that we have not yet played through, and I think today that profession is going to be the first profession in the light armor category, which is a category of professions that we have not yet looked at, where we've looked at Guardian and we looked at all 3 medium classes of Engineer, Thief, and Ranger, and today I want us to take a look at the Necromancer. So, their complexity is a 1 out of 3, they favor ranged, they summon minions, and they use dark magic. Necromancers of Terria are monsters on the battlefield, draining life force from their enemies and entering a death shroud that temporarily grants them powerful abilities and protects them from harm. So, let's go ahead and choose this, and then we can go ahead and customize our character. So a very special part about Sylvari character creation is we can come to the skin pattern here and we can look at these different patterns. And a very cool thing about these patterns is that if we turn off the light, Sylvari actually glow in the dark based off their patterns. So we can look at these different patterns here, and then we can select different colors for them. So here's like lemon, and then we can adjust the glow intensity. With maximum glow intensity is definitely very intense. And then of course Sylvari hairstyles are really cool because they are plant-like as well. And a very funny one is if you come over here, we can have this mushroom top as our hairstyle as a Sylvari if you wanted that. So this is where I ended with my character. I have a purple pattern going on blue skin, which I think is very cool. And let's go ahead and continue with the rest of our character creation here. So Necromancer's closest companion is death. In acknowledgement of this, I mark my face with the symbol of a skull. I respect the traditions of necromancers that have gone before me. I mark my face with the symbol of a skull to remind me that even the greatest die eventually. Or a trickster demon, who are from the mists and find their way to enter our world to tear it apart. I too am a destructive force, and all shall fear me. Or a ghostly wraith. A wraith is a creature of energy, and its cunning helps it elude its enemies. What you cannot see can kill you. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the Trickster Demon here, and this basically just changes our starting helm piece here, which is a mask. So we can see all 3 of the different types here, and I like them all pretty much the same, but I kind of like demon storylines and like demon vibes in games a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and go with that. And then trouble may follow me, but I use my blink to overcome it. I'll go ahead and just choose dignity for this one. And then here is our first decision for the Sylvari story, where I dreamed of a quest that caused me to action. It was a vision of the Green Knight. I saw a powerful knight in green armor, his face obscured. He was defeated but did not submit, was killed but did not die. Dare I face him in battle? or the shield of the moon. The moon is a powerful symbol of healing and magic. Any who dream they're protected by the moon shall know faith and fortitude. I hope I'm worthy of such a vision. Or lastly, a white stag, who is a creature of enchantment and a mortal beast with great power. It is said that the stag will trade a magical boon for its freedom, if I can catch it. So I'm going to go ahead and actually pick the white stag, because this story step is not super important. We will learn a lot from each one of these steps, so kind of differentiating them will change like the individual story that we will be learning, but we're still going to be learning a lot of the broad things in each of these stories, and the white stag is my personal favorite out of these three. And then next, I believe that the most important of Ventari's teaching is, and Ventari is somebody we will get to in a little bit, but our most valued teaching is all things have a right to grow. The blossom is brother to the weed, diversity of opinion is good, discussion is healthy. No one should be condemned simply for being different. I will stand up for the rights of all. Or where life goes, so too should you. The world is a delicious and gorgeous place created for us to explore, enjoy, and protect. I will seek out the lessons in every experience as I grow. I will have more to offer in return. Or lastly, act with wisdom, but act. It's one thing to know what is right and another to change the world. We all have a calling. I would distinguish myself through my actions and thereby lift Tyria to a higher state of nobility. And for this story step, it is a little bit more important, and I'm going to go ahead and go with the act with wisdom, but act. But we will learn why this is so important as we play through the entire Guild Wars 2 story. But let's go ahead and just select this one for now. And then our last option, which doesn't change too much of the story, it just kind of changes like the characters we see. But the pale tree awakened me during the cycle of what cycle? So the cycle of noon. Sylvari awakened midday, saw problems by attacking them head on. We are the warriors, hunters, and travelers who experience life firsthand and enjoy the rush of taking risks in order to feel truly alive. Or the cycle of dusk. Sylvari awakened at dusk are naturally curious and thoughtful. We love to learn and spend time reading and studying. We are intelligent and drawn towards the luscious complexities of magic. For the cycle of night, Sylvari awakened at night are secretive and cautious with information. We make our own decisions and we come and go as we please, nimble of mind and body. Or the cycle of dawn. Sylvari awakened at dawn are natural talkers, diplomats, and forward thinkers. We are intimately connected with our surroundings and markedly empathetic towards all, even other races. And for this character and the story that I'm wanting to go with on this character, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Cycle of Dawn. So now all we have left is a name, so I'm just going to go ahead and come up with a name. And I think instead of how with my other characters I've chosen names that are kind of like lore-wise while connected to my own name, I think for this one, I guess I'll go ahead and try my actual name, but someone already has it, so I'll go ahead, and I don't think I have used this name in Guild Wars 2 yet, but this is a name that I like to use a lot in other games, so I'll go ahead and try this one.
I am Sylvari. 25 years ago, my people first appeared in Tyria. The pale tree flowered, and the firstborn awakened. The dream contains my race's memories. We gain awareness here, and then awaken into the world. The dream fills me with knowledge, and is my connection to others. It is my inspiration, my guiding light. While here, I have discovered my purpose, to face evil and destroy it. Even now, I sense my destiny calling me to awaken. My time is soon. Nature and goodness are under siege. All life hangs in the balance. If Tyria is to survive, it will need us. If we fail, the dream will be consumed by nightmare, and Tyria will wither and die. I dream of voyages. The voices of my people whisper to me of far-off places and mysterious shores. A white stag races before me, brave and wild. It offers me the gift of freedom. The dream hints at my future. There are distant lands and dangerous challenges, but also I see my home. A grove with a white tree and friends who will stand by me when I need them. My honor dictates that I help those who are lost and alone. I am their protector. I hear my name in the wind, and I feel the call of my future. And yet, I sense darkness approaching. Something intrudes upon the dream. It blocks the path to my awakening. Before I can enter the world, I must first face this evil and vanquish it. I am summoned by the dream. This is my story.
So here is our tutorial mission, fighting the nightmare, and now we can begin learning a lot about the Sylvari. So we appear here, and we have a character here called Keith.
For the sake of the pale tree, come to me, sapling. I need your assistance. Yes, I'm here. Can you see me?
And let's go ahead and have a chat with her.
Do you have wisdom? Dreamer, I am Keith. I need your help. Can you hear me where you are within the dream?
Within the dream? What does that mean? Why do you look transparent?
I am in Tyria, a land far away. Soon you'll awaken here, but for now you live in the dream. I can't explain right now. We must hurry. Something is poisoning the dream.
Poisoning the dream? Of course, I will do whatever I can to help you. But why me?
Your spirit is strong. Do not underestimate yourself. Head to the far embankment, and I'll meet you there.
So let's go ahead and meet with this Keith. And Keith, we are going to soon learn, is kind of our mentor through the personal story, and she's our equivalent to the Logan Thackeray of the human personal story. She was once a member of Destiny's Edge, and we will be working with her a lot in the future.
This way. Those hounds are an aspect of the poison. Our foe must be close now.
A very important part of Keith and her storyline is that she's known as a firstborn, which means that she is one of the first 12 Sylvari to have ever appeared in the world.
Cannot reach the enemy I sense within the dream.
Fear not, my lady. I can fix the bridge, but not while evading these beasts.
Young one, slay these creatures. Give our friend time to repair the path.
So as the pale tree grew, which we'll talk more about in a moment, and the first Sylvari appeared in the world, the first, let's just say, batch, for lack of a
I'll
better
get this
word,
bridge reformed with the utmost haste.
was a total of 12 different Sylvari, 3 for each of the cycles of the day, and Keith is one of the firstborns.
The poison is at its strongest in the clearing beyond. Have courage!
She was born in the cycle of night, so a completely different cycle than we are. But now let's go ahead and come through here and we can defeat the shadow creatures infecting the dream.
Wait, something's happening. I feel... The pale tree has breathed her strength into me. She's made me tangible, but only for a few moments. Hurry, sapling. Be ready for anything.
So let's go ahead and fight through all these different nightmare hounds that exist here. And we can see that we are in what is called the dream right now, which is where all Sylvari exist before they are basically born into the normal world of Tyria. And here we basically have like the opportunity to learn a lot of lessons and to learn important things and to also see what our future might be. So right now we are kind of seeing what our future could be, where we are fighting against many different monsters. And then as we defeat these monsters, we can see this.
There. The poison has taken form. Quickly, destroy it.
Here we have the shadow of the dragon. So we can see that in our dream we are fighting a giant dragon, and let's go ahead and attack it right now with Keith, and we have another ally by our side with our necromancer abilities. Right now we are wielding an axe, and similar to ranger, the axe on the necromancer is a ranged weapon, and you just have a basic auto attack right now that just deals damage and also inflicts vulnerability, and then the vulnerability inflicted is increased when foes are below the health threshold of 50%. So overall just a nice basic attack that just ramps up over time as we deal more damage and we fight enemies. So it's really good against this boss because we can see that we have a ton of vulnerability on it right now, except it started going down because we got knocked away. So that just means as we fight this boss we're dealing more and more damage.
We'll defend the dream. Begone, monster!
And this monster is now at 20%, so once we can defeat him, we can awaken into the real world of Tyria, and we can begin our adventures in the first map of the Sylvari.
It is finished. The dream is safe from this poison, thanks to you. We'll see each other again in the waking world.
And now we are in Caledon Forest, which is one of my favorite maps in the entire game, and it is the starting map for the Sylvari.
Where am I? I was fighting a great evil. Are we safe? Kaith? Where is Kaith?
Steady, sapling. You just woke. You were calling out in your dream. Kaith was just here, but she had to go speak to the Pale Tree.
She and I fought side by side against a poison in the dream. I saw the shadow of a terrible dragon, and I felt the dream call upon me to defeat it.
By the tree. A wild hunt so soon, and such a momentous task. To be a valiant of the wild hunt is a difficult charge. Bear this calling with pride.
I will. But how do I begin? One does not simply awaken and rush off to face a dragon.
You start here in our forest. There were others hurt in the dream. They could use your help. Besides, it'll be fine training for a new valiant.
And now we can begin our adventure. So let's go ahead and just select this axe, which is a little bit of a better axe. And I can go ahead and customize it. Actually, I cannot. There are no stats that we can put on it. And then we can go ahead and get our level up reward because we have leveled up to level 2. And now let's go ahead and talk to the scout right here, and we can begin our adventures in Caledon Forest.
Welcome to Astoria. As you journey forth into the unknown, know that you are not alone. Seek guidance from those who make their homes here, and help them in their time of need. The path ahead is yours to choose.
So let us begin our journey, and really quickly, just because I care about stuff like this, we started right here, but I want to come back over here because when Guild Wars 2 originally launched, the Sylvari characters actually appeared right here, and you can see that there are a ton of saplings right here, and then they just moved it farther down there to kind of make it like more simple for players to start getting into the game and start the tasks. But this is kind of the journey we would have made all the way over to the scout over here and this waypoint. But now let's go ahead and begin exploring this absolutely beautiful map and all the tasks and events and everything else that we need to collect all around this map. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the Sylvari. So we can see that we are newly awakened, and as Sylvari awaken into the world, they are obviously very confused because they come into like full sentience and they're like full grown adults, but they're also ages 0 with like no life experience whatsoever, and the only experience that they have is what they learned and what they saw in the dream. And as I mentioned, the dream does a lot of things for like teaching the Sylvari about the world, while also kind of showing what their destiny is. So we saw there that our destiny was fighting a dragon, and that is a very monumentous task because we know that the elder dragons are big threats to our world, and we are going to kind of learn throughout our time playing through the story that we are going to start fighting the elder dragons, specifically the elder dragon Zaitan, as well as the minions of the other elder dragons that exist, at least 3 other of them. But there's this thing called the Wild Hunt, which basically you could summarize it as a Sylvari's entire purpose for existing, where Sylvari have different wild hunts where they are kind of like destined and supposed to go do very different things, and we will see that different characters have very different wild hunts, and that changes a lot of their personality and what they are doing in the world. And we are going to learn more about what exactly our wild hunt is as well. Another fun fact is that this task right here is actually not a task that existed when Guild Wars 2 originally launched. It was added in a post-game update in the new player experience update, where we also saw a task in the Plains of Ashford that was also added that we talked about a long time ago when we were exploring that area on our char. But playing through as a Sylvari right now and playing through Caledon Forest is so nostalgic for me, because while the Sylvari weren't my first race that I ever played as, they were the first race that I played a ton of, and I got to level 80, and then I just mained the Sylvari throughout the rest of the game. And like this area right here is very nostalgic for me because there are some tasks that spawn here to basically collect supplies from the fireflies in order to light the town lamps, and then you fight against undead, I think, and it's just very, very like fun for me. It's like very simple, but now we can see that there are some undead here that we can fight, so let's go ahead and fight them. So Necromancer is kind of a command the dead, which is very kind of interesting when you compare that to the Elder Dragon Zaitan, who also does the same thing. But there is some other stuff with Necromancers that we will explore with like shadow magic and blood magic and stuff like that. So we will be able to learn all about that and all of those different like archetypes and vibes that exist with this profession. But we have unlocked our second ability here on our axe, which is Ghastly Claws, which is basically like a flurry attack where we summon Spectral Claws to slash your foe in a quick flurry of strikes, gaining life force per strike. This attack deals increased damage per stack of vulnerability on your foe, so this goes really good with our auto attack here, where we can kind of just use our auto attack to deal some damage to the Risen Thrall here and apply vulnerability, and then use our Ghastly Claws there to deal a ton of damage to it. And we know that the Sylvari are a very plant-like race, and because of that we can see that a lot of their culture revolves around plants as well, where we have these Sylvan Hounds here, which are basically plant dogs and are absolutely adorable, and we have the opportunity here to play with some of the Sylvan pups. But we can also see that the architecture around here is all very plant-based as well. And I just love everything that comes together with the Sylvari, because I'm kind of a plant lover myself in a variety of different ways, from houseplants to gardens and stuff like that. And I just like it so much. I think the outdoor world itself really calls to me, and I feel that with the Sylvari, and I kind of feel at home playing the Sylvari more so compared to other races in the game. Our third skill here is Unholy Feast. Cripple nearby foes and convert their boons into conditions. Release an Unholy Burst on foes below the health threshold. So it's kind of just like a scream type attack there, where it basically just deals some damage. And then we can see that it deals even more damage to any enemies that are below the 25% health threshold. But while Caledon Forest is home to the Sylvari and the first adventures for Sylvari characters, it is also home to a lot of content. It is one of the most content-dense maps in the original Guild Wars 2, which is very funny. Where, for example, there are 4 different jumping puzzles that exist in this map, and 2 different mini dungeons that exist, and we're going to be playing all of them, you know it. And the first one, actually 3 of them start in the tutorial area here, but one of them is right here. So let's go ahead and come up here, and then I'm going to go ahead and get a vista that is right here, and we can go ahead and take a look at this area, and then let's find the entrance to this jumping puzzle. This vista is actually coincidentally one of my favorite vistas in the game just because of the camera work. But let's go ahead and come over here, and then I know a secret that is right here, where we can see that the ground here is kind of going down, and we can drop down here and we are now in a tunnel where we can climb to the surface with this rock wall that is here. But we can also just go ahead and go forward this way, and we have a little bit of a trek through this little tunnel here that will allow us to go underwater here, and there are some barracudas that I do not have any underwater weapons yet, so we cannot fight them, but we can go ahead and swim right past them, and we can swim all the way through the tunnel, and then we can see that all the way over there looks like some surface because we see a spark fly right there. And as we swim all the way up, we can see that we will enter a giant cavern, which is basically the start of this jumping puzzle here. And very interesting is that there is this blue glowstone here that we can pick up and we can hold, and we can throw the orb to knock down a foe, but it's not really important for anything in this jumping puzzle. But this jumping puzzle is pretty easy. It is kind of challenging for like newer players who aren't too experienced with jumping puzzles, because this kind of requires players to zoom their camera way in, because if you're zoomed out it's going to be harder for you to see, but if you zoom in we can kind of see a clearer path through this jumping puzzle here, and then we can just make our way all the way around here. It is a very thematically fitting jumping puzzle for the Sylvari because of all these mushrooms and logs and stuff here, and I believe we want to go down this route here. It might actually be the other one, I'm kind of forgetting. It was actually indeed this one, so we had a little bit of a choice there, and if we had gone down the right logs we would have had gotten to a dead end right there. But we can go ahead and continue our way up here to progress towards the end of this jumping puzzle. And then we have another little bit of an option here, but this one's pretty obvious that that log doesn't really lead anywhere, so we can come up to the left here and then make our way all the way up here, and then just a couple more jumps left. Let's hope we don't fall at the end here. We can go ahead and get up here and get our splendid chest, and we have completed the jumping puzzle Spelunker's Delve. Now, very conveniently, we are in a new area that we saw the vista kind of going into this area, so let's go ahead and fight more Risen. But to give another brief explanation about an aspect of the Sylvari that we will learn more about as we play through the game is the Pale Tree, who is referred to by a few different names, but she is basically the mother of all Sylvari, and she is also a tree that has like an avatar form, which in and of itself is really cool. So at the end of Guild Wars 1, we see that the Norn and the Ashura are introduced into the world, and the humans and the Norn have some storyline that kind of advance their races and their stories as well. What we see happening during this time, it's not really explicitly shown in the game, but there was a Shining Blade agent named Ronan, who basically found a very mysterious cave that had a ton of seeds in it that was guarded by powerful plant creatures. And he basically just took one of these seeds and he planted the seed on the graves of his family who had died to the Mersat years earlier. And he, as well as a centaur named Vintari, who he had come across with, and is also a relatively important person from the original Guild Wars 1 campaign. The two of them together basically took care of this seed that was sprouting, and Vintari was basically a very wise and peaceful centaur, and we can see that the Pale Tree basically took Vintari's teachings to heart as it was growing from this very mysterious seed that was able to grow the Pale Tree. And then as the Sylvari were born, we can see that they also received the teachings of Vintari passed down through them by the Pale Tree, as well as the previous Sylvari generations. And I was just checking something out. Apparently you can actually see the Pale Tree in its very early stage in the original Guild Wars 1. I actually didn't know that. I haven't gotten there yet in the story. And you can see it on a picture on the screen right now that I pulled from the Guild Wars 1 wiki. But with the Pale Tree and the Vintari's teachings and everything else that I've kind of just introduced so far in this episode, we will explore that as we continue through the story here. Let's go ahead and do this dodge tutorial. We can go ahead and unlock this chest, and then let's go ahead and continue exploring Caledon Forest here. With leveling up to level 6, we can now pick a new reward, and I think I'll go ahead and go with this focus here, and you can go ahead and explore the focus weapon skills that we have here, and also my inventory is very full, so I think I'll go ahead and try to organize this a little bit. But our first new skill here with the focus is Soul Grasp. Release a disembodied hand to draw life force from your foes. So we can see with the spider web prison here, we can shoot out that giant hand and it basically deals a lot of damage, and it gives us something called life force. And what life force is, it is basically like a type of energy that accumulates as we fight enemies, and we gain it from killing enemies and from various spells that we can use. And as life force accumulates, it has a maximum amount that we can get here, but we can enter what is called Death Shroud, and basically we will turn into a very deathly shadowy figure here, and we will unlock a bunch of new abilities that we will slowly explore as we play through the story, because these enemies died super fast. But basically it is a very cool form that basically kind of acts like a second health bar, so if you're ever low on health, we can go ahead and use Death Shroud to basically get another health bar. And then it also has very powerful attacks, and some attacks that might be useful in certain situations that our other skills aren't useful in. But I think the biggest thing that we can look at it for is kind of like a survival tool, where if we need to use it to survive, it is definitely a good idea. And as we progress further into the game, we can start adding it into like a specialty rotation as we do it with other skills as well. I've now completed the first 5 tasks in the Sylvari starting area. There are a couple more for us to explore. Actually, I only think one more. But let's go ahead and come over here to Morgan's Spiral, which is a very special area because it is the start of another jumping puzzle, the second jumping puzzle that we're looking at in this episode. And not only is it the start to a jumping puzzle, it is also a start to a second jumping puzzle, because this is a very special jumping puzzle that as you complete the first one, you actually gain the ability to start doing a second one. So let's go ahead and unlock this waypoint just in case we fall here. We also have a hero challenge down here. There's actually an event here where Risen will spawn and basically attack the structure, and we can see that the Sylvari tower here has 92% health right now, and if it's ever destroyed, we actually lose access to the 2 jumping puzzles. But let's go ahead and consume this orchid, and then let's go ahead and make our way up the jumping puzzle here. This jumping puzzle is exceptionally fun because it is very apparent that it is a jumping puzzle. The one we saw earlier was pretty hidden away, and a bunch of players don't find that one early on in their playthrough. Like for example, I had no idea it existed until a couple months into playing the game, but this one is very obvious that this is a jumping puzzle. So for a lot of players, especially players that are playing as Sylvari, this is their first experience with a jumping puzzle in the game. And then as you can kind of tell where this is going, with a bunch of players knowing that this jumping puzzle exists, and with it being their first experience, and with it being kind of hard, you can sometimes just hang out at the bottom down there, and you can see a bunch of players just falling over and over again. again, and if they are high enough up, they will actually fall and die when they hit the ground because they take too much fall damage. And if you're nice, you can actually go ahead and res them so they don't have to waypoint. But we have made it to the end here where we have the splendid chest, and we have some jungle spider hatchlings here, which there is a juvenile one of a juvenile jungle spider that rangers can actually tame. So some rangers actually come through here to do just that. But we can see that at the end of this jumping puzzle here, and we just explored Morgan's Leap, this jumping puzzle, we can go ahead and jump across here. And this jumping puzzle might be something that we are not quite able to do right now because there are a ton of enemies in here, and I'm going to go ahead and do my best to kind of just run past these because I don't really feel like we're going to be able to fight all of them. Those ones we might be able to, but there's another group down here that might be even harder. But we are entering an area that is possessed by the Nightmare Court. We're a faction of people that we experienced 2 episodes ago as we were playing through our Ashura. There's a chest right there, but I'm going to go ahead and ignore it and just begin this jumping puzzle that starts right here. But while we see that the Sylvari really follow the teachings of the Pale Tree and the teachings of Ventari, the Nightmare Court are Sylvari who don't believe in the Pale Tree or any of those teachings and kind of go their own way. And they are a group of Sylvari that are violent in that path, where we can see that they will be kidnapping different Sylvari and we'll have to try to free them. And they're basically just trying to cause pain and devastation to basically everyone in order to try to achieve their goals. Here is a very difficult jump where we can jump on the left side, or we could also jump on the right side here where we can jump on the stem, and I typically find that to be a little easier. And then we can go ahead and continue making our way up here. We just passed by 2 players that are struggling a little bit, I think, but we can go ahead and come up here, and then there are only a few more jumps, and then we can make this one, and we did that one pretty fine first try, and we got this achievement, and we actually got progress on the daily there, and we'll explore dailies a little bit later on. But down here we can go ahead and fall down here, and then I'll go ahead and get this chest here from the daily, and then we can come a little dangerous here. I'll go ahead and fall down here. I think will be an okay spot, and I think I am okay. There's a mosquito there that I'm going to go ahead and run past, and then there's a waypoint over here that I'm just going to go ahead and get this waypoint just so we have it. With getting that waypoint, we leveled up to level 8, but now I'm going to go ahead and run this way back towards the starter area because we have not finished exploring this. But a really cool thing that we can see on the bottom right over here is that there are some of the Nightmare Courtiers there, and there's actually a gate into the area that we just came from, and it is a one-way gate, so we can exit out of it, but we cannot enter through it, because the only way to get into that jumping puzzle is through this first jumping puzzle right here. But we have completed both of those 2 jumping puzzles, and we have actually completed 3 to now in this episode. If we come into the jumping puzzle category here, you can see that we have completed quite a few jumping puzzles in our time in the Let's Play series so far, and jumping puzzles are one of my favorite things in the game, so I am okay with having done so many so far. But now we can begin learning more about the Nightmare Court, where we can go ahead and infiltrate one of their bases here, and I just got flashbang there a little bit. But we can see that there is this giant Nightmare Court camp here. They share the same architecture and kind of vibes as the Sylvari, but the Sylvari are like good and the Nightmare Court are basically bad. So we can go ahead and destroy these thorn barriers, and we can go ahead and console these nightmare pups, which are basically pups that were taken and are being twisted into the nightmare, which is kind of like an evil version of the dream. We have a hero challenge right here where we can fight a thorn wolf and 2 other scar thorn wolves. And then we have our 5th ability here called Spinal Shivers, which chill your targets and remove up to 3 boons, dealing extra damage based on the number of boons removed. So it's just a nice attack that deals a good amount of damage, but it'll also make enemies weaker by removing their boons, and will deal even more damage as we remove boons from enemies. So if we ever see an enemy get a bunch of boons on them, we can go ahead and use that to make our fight against them a little bit easier. We can see here that the Nightmare Court have some captives, and we can go ahead and console them, and then we have completed this task where we have disrupted the Nightmare Court operations here in Briarthorn Den. And I believe with that we can see on our map here, oh, I'm missing the Morgan Spiral task, so there was indeed a second task. Let's go ahead and come back here, and we can go ahead and do this mission right here. So we can defeat Risen, burn their corpses, and stomp on corrupted grub holes. Let's go ahead and go into our Shroud here, and we can use our auto attack here, which is basically just blast your fools with life force. So it is a very powerful attack. It deals a lot of damage, and it actually pierces through enemies, so it's kind of like an AoE attack in a way. As we come out of Shroud, it goes on cooldown. It has a 10-second cooldown, so we have to wait in order to use it again. But as we go into it again, we can go ahead and use this second ability here, Send Out a Claw. If it hits a foe, it inflicts bleeding and chill on nearby foes, and you may cast Dark Pursuit to shadow step to the initial target. So we can go ahead and use it, and it sends out an attack. And then I think it was supposed to give us another ability there, but I'm not entirely sure. But we can see we have used up a ton of life force, where life force gets used up every time we use an ability in Shroud form, and also when we take damage. So that's where the second life kind of comes in, where it basically acts as another health bar, and any damage to us will go to the life force before it goes to our health bar right here. But we can go ahead and come in here, and we have Doom, which inflicts fears on our foes, so we can go ahead and use this against these enemies. And then I'll go ahead and use all our different Shroud skills here against these two thralls, and we can go ahead and deal with them very easily. We also have our healing skill here, which is Corruption. Feast on your conditions, gaining health for each one consumed. You become vulnerable. So necromancers are very interesting because a lot of necromancer skills are actually like a give and take skill, where we will gain healing and we'll gain bonus healing for conditions, and we also lose conditions because of that, but we gain vulnerability on ourselves, so we can use that, and we can see that we become a little bit weaker for a few seconds. So it's a very interesting dynamic, and we're going to see that with a bunch of other skills as we progress through here. And we have completed this task. I'll go ahead and defeat this Risen Grub, and then let's go ahead and go to the next spot in the map for us to explore. I just want to do a little bit more so we can get up to level 10, so at the start of next episode we can begin our personal story. But let's go ahead and return to the village of Astoria, because looking here looks like we have completed everything in the starter zone. But we can go ahead and follow the road west out of Astoria here, and you can come across this vine bridge, and then we can talk to the scout right here to see what lies
During your
next.
travels, you will find adventure at every turn. But do not forget where you come from. The heart of all cultures is farming and commerce. To this end, the Sylvari of Argham Wild serve as providers to all of the grove, be it gathering from the water's edge or farming from within the heart of the jungle.
So let's go ahead and come this way, and we can see that there's this area over here, and there's actually two ways to get into this area, one from the north and one from the south, and this road basically just leads back to Astoria. And it's kind of just a nice touch, but we can see right here is kind of like a funny thing, where this is where we came in our tutorial mission, and we fought the Shadow of the Dragon right here, but the tutorial mission in the dream is just kind of a representation of Tyria, and it's not Tyria itself. So we don't see a giant dragon here, but what we do see are some oak hearts here, and we can go ahead and become an oak heart ourselves. And there's basically a garden here that we can help maintain, and it is kind of an interesting quest because it transforms us into like a special creature here, and then we have to use this creature in order to complete the task. But other than this little bit of an interesting task right here, not too much going on in this area, but we can go ahead and continue our adventures northwards here. And I love absolutely running through Caledon Forest, and kind of like the Maguma jungle as a whole, because it's very like twisty, and there's a lot of turns and a lot of like different levels of elevation. And right here we have some really cool wind riders that are kind of exclusive to the Maguma jungle. But here, let's go ahead and get this hero challenge with this waterfall here. And then I see a vista up here, so let's go ahead and grab this vista. We were attacked by some jungle spiders as we were doing that. But now I want to head over to this last little area that I want to explore in this episode, and it is this Sylvari camp right here called Cair Astoria, which is another one of those cairs that we see that are basically Sylvari fortresses, and it is currently under attack by the Nightmare Court, so let's go ahead and help them out. And as we help them out, let's go ahead and look at the last two of the Shroud skills that we have. So let's go ahead and go into Shroud here, and then we can use Forward, which is damage nearby foes and steal their life force. So it deals a ton of damage, and we can see a ton of life force coming into us as we use that ability. Our fifth one here, Tainted Shackles, begin binding nearby enemies with your life force, posting out conditions. They can break this binding if they get far enough away from you. Bound foes are immobilized if the binding finishes. So just a lot of stuff, but we see with those last two abilities there that they are very high damage AoE ability, especially the number 4 right there. So we really want to use that ability when we are in a group of enemies and we just want to go into Shroud in order to deal a ton of damage and basically just melt through any group attacking. So let's go ahead and come over here and then use this again. And this ability is really nice because it is an ability that gives us life force while we are in Shroud, so it kind of just extends the amount of time that we can be in the Shroud form. But with that group of Nightmare Core dead, we have now leveled up to level 10 because we completed the task, and this event is still going on, so we can kind of just help out a little bit more. But let's go ahead and get our task reward here of 60 copper and 120 karma, not too much. And then we have our level up reward here of level 10, which means we have now unlocked the first chapter of the personal story that we will go ahead and look at next episode. But with Nightmare Core dead, we can go ahead and come over towards this town, and I might just come out of it just in case when we log in next episode, if it is attacked and taken over by the Nightmare Court. But as far as this episode goes, I'm going to go ahead and call it good here. I hope you all enjoyed watching this episode. I very much enjoyed playing through it. I am super excited that we are now playing as a Sylvari, and we will continue our adventures in the next episode. I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe. I will see you all next time in the world of Tyria. Goodbye.